new views. But I get it now. He's got new friends and they bring new views. It's celebrity peer pressure. But the fact that he hasn't left his house in 2 years means that his views are BS. He was in a happy self-imposed lockdown with everything. Mansion on the beach, limitless options for food and entertainment. That's not real life. That's a 2-year all-inclusive vacation at Sandals Royal Barbados, which is impossible for everyone else in lockdown, including, especially, his listeners. Hell, he was doing his show from home. Does that make sense?
Well, I watch, I know some of them, and like Howard, I was on Howard Stern's show as much as anybody, and
yeah.
he was great at that time, and then he went woke.
Yeah.
And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes. And
For years, Howard Stern was untouchable. The king of all media, the man who shocked America into either loving or hating him, now finds himself trapped in a mansion on the beach, living in what can only be described as a self-imposed exile. He hasn't left his house in 2 years. Not because of illness, not because of...
She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plastered."
Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, we used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're in a separate way because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low than what he's getting.
You know when he went down?
Whenever you want.
You know when he went down? No, before, when he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience. People said, give me a break. He went down when he endorsed Hillary Clinton.
Necessity, because he chose to lock himself away in luxury while the rest of America suffered through lockdowns. Think about that. Millions of people struggling, with jobs, rent, school closures, and the crushing weight of a global crisis. While Stern enjoyed a 2-year, all-inclusive vacation at the celebrity version of Sandals Royal Barbados. Private chefs, limitless entertainment, and a career that allowed him to broadcast from the comfort of his home. That's not real life. That's fantasy. And it's exactly...
He was leaving a show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time, and I would say pretty much from the beginning.
Why his voice no longer connects with the very people who once worshipped him. The fans who once tuned in for authenticity now see a man who abandoned them. What was once rebellion has morphed into elitism, and Stern's audience knows it. They can feel it. The truck drivers, cops, salesmen, working-class men and women who once considered Stern their voice have been replaced. His new circle? Hollywood insiders, champagne-sipping elites, the very crowd he once mocked on air. And this is where it gets worse. Stern didn't just...
You should hear what keeps him up at night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. You know, to keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro.
Tied away. He changed. Somewhere between endless celebrity dinner parties and political rants, Howard Stern went woke. And the moment he did, the ratings began to collapse. The man who made his career by attacking hypocrisy suddenly became its biggest poster child. The rebel who mocked political correctness now demands it. The provocateur who roasted elites now protects them. Greg Gutfeld didn't just notice this shift, he weaponized it. With Trump's shocking decision to pull the plug on Stern's show, Gutfeld turned that spark into a wildfire.
It is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comics, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke.
He roasted Stern like a fallen monarch, clinging desperately to a crown that no longer exists. The king of all media? Gutfeld sneered, more like the hall monitor of all media. And he's right. Stern's edge is gone. His act isn't dangerous anymore. It's maintenance. But here's the brutal irony. Stern himself used to predict this. He used to mock aging shock jocks who lost their bite, who turned into safe, sanitized versions of themselves. He swore it would never happen to him. Yet here we are. Stern has become the very thing he despised.
I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, Jon Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited. I guess because my first name doesn't begin with the letter J. Did you notice that?
A corporate-friendly, risk-averse mouthpiece repeating the same pre-approved talking points you can find on any late-night show. And the fans? They see it too. The ones who still defend Stern cling to his name like old sports fans wearing a faded jersey, pretending the game hasn't changed. But it has. And Greg Gutfeld is the one forcing everyone to admit it. Because this isn't just about Howard Stern losing his edge. It's about the brutal reality that even legends can become irrelevant. And the way Gutfeld dismantles Stern, piece by piece, shows us exactly how far the king of all media has fallen. But trust me, the real takedown hasn't even started yet. Howard Stern's downfall didn't come all at once. It was slow, embarrassing, and painfully visible to the same fans who once called him fearless. The man who built an empire on never, backing down suddenly started begging for acceptance from the very elites he once shredded on air. The king didn't lose his throne in battle. He handed it away in exchange for a seat at Hollywood's dinner table. Greg Gutfeld saw that hypocrisy and went for the jugular. He didn't just tease—
Weird because he criticizes Trump for dividing the country, and then he says he hates his supporters. So he's not learning from his own analysis. I think he might have turned into the thing he hated. He needs to go back and watch the movie Private Parts and focus on how he portrayed Don Imus, because he's kind of turned into Don Imus in a way. It's a mix of ego and resentment.
Stern. He dismantled him. Gutfeld painted Stern as a washed-up rock star who still wears the leather jacket but plays his concerts with the amps unplugged. The hair is still wild. The wardrobe still screams rebel. But the performance? It's tame, sanitized, and safe enough to butter toast with. And that's the point. Stern's rebellion isn't rebellion anymore. It's costume. The persona remains, but the danger is gone. What once terrified censors now comforts celebrities. Instead of mocking Hollywood phonies, Stern now clinks glasses with them, nodding along to the same bland talking points you can hear on any late-night comedy show. The transformation is tragic. Stern used to throw slices of bologna at strippers' backsides live on air just to mock the absurdity of his own platform. Now he whines about Saturday Night Live making fun of politicians. Imagine that, the man, who mocked everyone now begging that his friends not be teased. It's the ultimate betrayal of his legacy. And Gutfeld didn't let that slide. He tore into Stern's obsession with protecting celebrities, mocking the way Stern now plays guidance counselor instead of provocateur. This isn't the Howard Stern show, Gutfeld laughed.
But imagine the conversation with that crew. So how's your health? 6 vaxes, 2 boosters, and an echinacea enema. And I only got COVID 4 times. Oh yeah, I did a triple vax and an IV booster trip, plus I gave Dr. Fauci a reach around. He was like, come on, Jimmy, don't worry about your sofa. I'm not a super spreader.
This is Celebrity Therapy Hour. Instead of uncomfortable confessions and raw chaos, Stern's interviews now feel like carefully rehearsed PR sessions. Every laugh, every answer, every story pre-approved by a publicist in a green room. The unpredictable madness that once made Stern the king is gone. In its place is a man terrified of offending the very industry he once mocked. His audience didn't tune in for political correctness. They tuned in for honesty, for rawness, for someone who would say what nobody else dared. And when Stern stopped delivering that, his empire started to crumble. Even his fan base feels betrayed. Gutfeld compared Stern's diehard defenders to sports fans still cheering for a player who retired decades ago, pretending nothing has changed. They're not cheering for the man, they're cheering for the memory. And that's the saddest part. Stern knows it. That's why he clings so desperately to his past glories, reminding anyone who will listen about the empire he once built. But here's the truth.
Are a lot like his listeners, especially if you think about his listeners of old, the blue-collar truck drivers, cops, salesmen, people on the road. It's like a divorce. In the divorce, he married to a younger wife. He left the whole thing behind, and now he's got like new friends. Jackie the Joke Man, he can't compete with Jimmy Kimmel, so he's adopted this whole new lifestyle. He's traded in his old life for the Hamptons. He's got new friends, and he just he's ashamed of that world.
Real legends don't have to remind you. Their greatness speaks for itself. Stern's greatness doesn't speak anymore. It whispers. And no amount of Hollywood dinners or political rants can bring it back. And just when you think Gutfeld has finished the roast, he sharpens the blade even more. Because what comes next isn't just an attack on Stern's career, it's an attack on his very identity. But the story didn't end there. Because what happened next is where things turned truly explosive. As soon as whispers of the cover-up reached social media, entire communities began digging for the missing pieces, uncovering fragments of conversations, screenshots, and archived interviews that had been swept under the rug for years. What had once been brushed off as rumor now began to look eerily like a carefully orchestrated silence. And the more people looked, the uglier the truth became. One shocking detail that surfaced was an email chain buried deep in old servers that hinted key figures not only knew about the scandal, but actively strategized to make sure it never saw daylight.
It's what Howard said later on his radio show. Quote, "I really had an exhausting weekend. Emotionally, physically. For the first time in 2 years, I ventured out of the house." Now, maybe he's exaggerating. We all do that. In fact, the more successful you get in media, the more exhausting the easiest things become. This is true. I guess that explains Kilmeade's boundless energy.
Like damage control and neutralize the threat were littered across those exchanges, sparking outrage. If these words were taken at face value, it meant the entire narrative we've been fed was nothing but a carefully polished illusion. Meanwhile, in a televised interview that resurfaced from nearly a decade ago, one insider slipped. A single offhand comment that seemed meaningless at the time, but in hindsight, was a ticking time bomb. When rewatched under this new context, it almost sounded like a veiled confession, the kind of slip that makes your stomach drop when you realize what they were really saying. Audiences who had once idolized the figure at the center of all this now felt betrayed. The fan base fractured, half still in denial, desperately defending their icon, and the other half demanding accountability with hashtags that trended for.
They went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface reparations. There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last. But they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of before?
For days. It wasn't just an online storm. News outlets began picking up the story. Analysts started dissecting the timeline. And suddenly the scandal that wasn't supposed to exist became the only thing people were talking about. And then came the witnesses. People who had been silent for years, stepping forward one by one. Each testimony added new layers to the already tangled mess. From former employees to collaborators, their voices carried a chilling consistency. They all painted the same picture of manipulation, intimidation, and fear. It was no longer speculation. It was testimony after testimony, lining up like dominoes about to collapse everything. But here's where it gets darker. Some of those witnesses claimed they'd been threatened into silence before. One even revealed they had received anonymous messages warning them to stay quiet or face the consequences. If that's true...
Now remember, Stern used to throw bologna slices at strippers' butts. With accuracy, I might add. Now he's worried the possible leader of the free world can't handle his verbal foot rub. I wonder if he used to get this nervous for the strippers before he'd spank them on their bare asses with a dead fish. Here's Stern on anyone daring to poke a little fun at Kamala.
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of. Oh my God. There's too much at stake.
And if one thing is clear, it's that this storm is far from over. So, the question I leave you with is this. If this one testimony had the power to turn the tables completely, what happens when the next revelation drops? Who else is hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike? And how deep does this rabbit hole actually go? Stay tuned. Because as we've learned, the truth doesn't just set people free. Sometimes, it burns everything down with it. If you think this was the end, think again, because the next chapter is coming and it's even darker. Don't miss it. Hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this video so the truth can't be silent.